Welcome to Brand Builders TV. Deep dive topics, tools and resources brought to you by global thought leaders from within the Brand Builders Club. This show gives you access to the strategies that you can use to move forward with ease and flow in every area of your life and business. In today's show, Caroline is going to share what happens when your bucket fills. During session 1, she introduced you to the whole language of buckets, and you will have had an introduction to buckets and diamonds as you seek to discover that you can reset your life. Life is a gamble, and as the reflection that Caroline shares in session 1 is sharing all around the gambles that we take in life. Session 2 was all about how to discover the big E as another means that you may have adopted to get by as you live in what Caroline calls a bucket world. The more you connect with your bucket, the closer you get to shining your diamond and discovering your truth. Today's show will finish with a little bucket love, an activity that you can take away for the day. So get your pen and paper ready, learn it, model it, and get shit done. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Brand Builders TV. I'm Caroline Purvey of TRE UK, where we teach the Total Release Experience. I'm looking forward to spending the next 30 minutes with you, the second of my series, looking at buckets, diamonds, and finding your truth. So what do we mean by that? Well, with the Total Release Experience, we reframe stress. Let me put it into context for you. Stress impacts all of our lives. But we talk buckets so that whether it's children, adults, and we work with doctors and psychotherapists, understand the context of where this stress is held. So instead of getting all technical, we like to keep our language simple. So we talk buckets. As my granddaughter said to me at the weekend, "Where's your bucket then, Nanny?" And I said, well, it's your body. Every time you have an unhappy or an angry situation, you take it into your body, and it's much easier to understand that through buckets. And she totally got that. And I'll explain more of that later. And then, of course, diamonds. You're a diamond. The day you were born, that little diamond was in there waiting to shine. And I watch it with my own grandchildren now, how they are developing and growing as they're nurtured and they get love in their life. And that brings the diamond out. But sadly, as we all know, stress, trauma, overwhelm comes in waves, doesn't it? Hits us at different stages of our life. And that's what fills the bucket. And that's what hides the diamond. So we look to guide you, or anybody that wants to be guided, to find that ability to reset. Wouldn't it be great to reset your life? Get rid of all the bad stuff that you're carrying around in your bucket. At TRE UK, we know what that's like. Because we've done it, we do it. And we make sure we never go there again. So buckets, diamonds, when you start to empty your bucket, of course, your diamond comes to shine, and more you find your truth, your real truth. We don't always know that because our bucket holds stuff from very early years. And from those very early years, we don't remember. We really don't. But our body does. And that's what we're about. So, having put that into context, last session that I did on my first in this series was about acknowledging that, okay, we have stress, trauma, and overwhelm in our life. And I'm betting you, if you ask somebody, how are you today? They're going to say, I'm okay. If you asked, do you have stress? Most likely, they'll say no. Why? Because in that moment, they're probably not feeling the stress. And anyway, who wants to acknowledge they've got stress to deal with? Still today, in all the overwhelm and traumatic experiences that one's having, that ability to acknowledge that one's struggling never comes easy. It never comes easy. We do have this stiff British upper lip. I'm okay. Pick myself up, dust myself off and carry on. But it's not just about where you are today. It's acknowledging what one's been through. Everyone has history. And it's important to acknowledge that history because that's what's filled the bucket. And that, I guess, is why our work probably differs, because it's not just about now. It's all the stuff that's forgotten. We can notice who's carrying around stress in us. You might notice it in yourself or others around you, or those that you once knew and worked with. I can look back and see plenty of that by the way that they get by. And that's our starting point. How do we get by? Now, in my first program, I looked at the G. The G was for gambling. And a quick recap. Many get by dealing with their stress through gambling, literally. And gambling is a seriously worrying addiction. Why? Why do they choose to gamble? Because it just takes their mind away from what they're feeling in their body. And often they might not know what that feeling is. One of my clients, she gambled very heavily. Very clever lady. And I'm delighted to say that she no longer gambles and saves her money and has bought her own home, and that's phenomenal. But gambling is a side effect. So what else? Life's a gamble. And that's all covered in the first program. Maybe you'd like to go back and remind yourself of that. This session is the E. E is for eating. Yes, first let's start literally with eating. I don't know about you, but if you feel a bit stressed, what do you reach for? Is it the biscuits, the cake, the chocolate, the sweets, the donuts? What about the pizza, the burgers? We call them comfort foods, and indeed they are, especially the sugary stuff. And it's to do with dopamine. We get that little dose of dopamine. It's a chemical in our body. Many functions, but primarily it's what we call the love drug, really. We all need love. We all need love in our life. And if we're in a bad way and we feel we're not getting that, and you may have experienced that for yourself. I know in the past I have. Of course I have. And I'm sure you have. Maybe you are now. But we need that little bit of love. And when we have that donut, that whatever it is, we feel good. Only temporarily, mind you. But then we regret it. What do they say? A moment on the lips, an inch on the hips. I recall one of my clients, extremely overweight gentleman, very nice man. And he said to me, I used to go home from work and just raid the fridge. But he said, I regretted doing it afterwards. This is a man that had gone through years and years of trauma from childhood, carrying it around in his bucket. And the only thing he could find that worked for him was food, but always the wrong food. I'm glad to say when he started to empty his bucket, of course, the addiction went. He didn't need the food anymore because the reason that he needed it disappeared. Many clients find they lose weight purely because needing the food is no longer a need. And that's great. But this isn't just about eating. When we're carrying around a bucket full of stress or overwhelm or trauma from whether we know when or not, you may find, it's more than just food. Things are eating away in your life. Now, I wonder if you've got a pen and paper to hand, jot these headings down, something you might want to reflect on. We can eat away at our time. Because when we're not in a good place, what happens? Our mind gets fuddled. We can't focus, concentrate. And so time gets wasted. We don't make the best of our time. Do you make the best of your time? Do you recall those moments where you haven't? The time has just run away and you've got to the end of the day and thought, what have I achieved? I don't feel like I've achieved anything. So time gets eaten away. And we don't want that. I'm sure you don't want that. Live every moment. Enjoy every moment. Because that's important. In this climate that we live in today, we never know what's around the next corner. We don't know what news is going to come out that's going to impact our life. So don't let your time get eaten away. The other thing that gets eaten away is money. Maybe you've noticed there are times when you've spent money on something that you hope is going to make you feel a little bit less stressed. Remove the experiences that you're having in your body that are telling you you're feeling that little bit stressed. Now, that might be a massage. That might be a shopping trip. Spending money on shopping gives us a feel-good factor. I know in the past I've done that, got home and thought, why did I even buy that? It's not that I really need it. And then, of course, perhaps more anxiety because you bought something you didn't want. So make a note to self, money. Maybe later have a reflection. What have I spent money on trying to make myself feel better? It does extend to spa days, holidays, retreats, weekends away. I recall 7 ladies sitting in front of me wanting to learn our program, and they all were sitting there desperate for some hope. And when we talked about spending money on what we call all those little taps we have on our bucket that might skim a little bit of the stress away from filling to the brim. And I said to them collectively, do you know how much you have all spent on your well-being taps? Go on, have a guess. You're probably saying to yourself, 2,000-3,000? 170,000. 7 women, 170,000. And they still had a bucket full. So money gets eaten away. I believe that when we have massage, when we have acupuncture, when we have yoga classes, when we go singing, when we do anything that we might have, even when we go shopping, that we should do that with enjoyment and really feel even better for the experience, not desperately hope that it's going to make us feel better. I hope you get the difference that I'm trying to explain here, because this is all part of understanding where you are now and where you could be. The other thing that gets eaten away, and this is the most important one, is your physical, mental and emotional well-being. Because when you start to fill your bucket, and as I said earlier, we all have different history. So we fill it with all those different aspects of our life, And when the bucket starts to get full, what do we notice? And this may well be you. Jot down physical. On a physical level, it's probably where you experience a full bucket load first. Back, hip, neck, shoulder pain, gut problems, IBS, irritable bowel, muscle tension, joints start to ache, pains start to come in the body, headache, can't sleep. There are many symptoms that come, knocking on that bucket, saying, let me out. Then on a mental level. So that foggy brain, concentration, can't focus, anxiety, depression, all start to have you notice perhaps you're spiraling downwards. And if not you, maybe you've come close to that. Maybe somebody you know. Plenty you know of, because we're reading and hearing about it all the time. And when we can't think straight, we can't make the right decisions. We miss out. Have you missed out on something? Because your head fog just got in the way? And you had that feeling of, I can't be bothered, it's not going to work for me, it's all a waste of time. And then, of course, emotionally, what might you notice about your emotions? Feeling tearful, angry, moody. These emotions come because your bucket's full. If we don't look to sort our bucket, then what might you experience? And I hope this isn't you, but you may know somebody. Stroke, heart attack, and at worst, suicide. Nobody wants to take their own life. But the bucket's full. The head doesn't think clearly, and then the emotions take over. I've worked with many who've been on the brink, particularly in the service sector. They pulled back from the brink. And that's important. So how much is eating away at you? What else gets eaten away? Habits. You may notice all the good habits perhaps you had. Up early, going running, every day going for a walk, joining the gym, having a good regular habit, maybe good regular habit of nutrition or good regular habit of friendships. If they've eroded and turned into bad habits, it's because the bucket's getting a little bit full and it really can't function at optimum level. So maybe jot down habit. And then later have a reflection. Any habits changed for you? And then, of course, what else gets eaten away? The most important thing, besides your health, relationships. How a full bucket, bringing out those mood swings, the anger, the resentment, relationships suffer big time. I wonder if you have encountered relationship issues. And that can be with your partner, your loved one, your family, your friends. I remember working with a counsellor. She was a relationship counsellor. And she actually paid for us to work with the men that she worked with and the women she worked with, who were looking to separate, divorce. And the one thing she said to me is, I just wish they would talk to each other. Well, we did those workshops and it made a difference for all attendees. I particularly remember one lady sitting up after she'd emptied something from her bucket and she said, I now realise I've been putting all my anger on my children. So not only had it been eating away at her, it had been eating away at her relationships and the precious relationships with her children. And so the child's bucket starts to fill. And then we realise we're all living in a bucket world. We do live in a bucket world. Once you acknowledge and notice how you have managed to get by, just how much you do carry around, because you mask it. That's what you do without realising it. And then what else? Motivation. Motivation is so important. It's what gets us out of bed every day, isn't it? What gets you out of bed every day? Do you feel motivated? I always say to those that we work with, when you wake up in the morning, if you're not full of zing and excited about the day ahead, do not set foot. Do not set foot out the bed. Connect with some nice deep breathing. And then give gratitude for at least 6 things that you've got to get out of bed for. Starting with a nice warm cosy bed. Maybe gratitude for the nice carpeted floor you put your foot on. And then all the other things in your life. Always finding gratitude and recognising with that gratitude that perhaps you have far more than you thought you had. And don't stop at 6. Keep going. So eating eats away at all these different things in our life. So I hope you've got those headings down so that you can check through. And I'll just recap them for you. So there's eating, comfort eating. Is that what you do? Does your time get eaten away? Money, trying to make yourself feel better, feel good. And then what about your health? Most importantly, physical, mental, emotional health. And then we have relationships, habits. Any habits that have changed for you? And then, of course, motivation. That va-va-voom, first thing in the morning to get you through every day. So a little more about noticing how you get by, how those around you get by. And that starts to give you insights into just how much your bucket is impacting your whole life. But because it's so fragmented, you may not always see that. Can you imagine with just what you might be reflecting on today, and even from the first session that I worked through with you, if you saw that? 2 big aspects of our life. It's a lot to carry around, a lot to deal with. Can you imagine dripping that out, clearing it all away? Then the diamond starts to get a little polish and come up to shine. But we'll be talking more about this next time. Recently, I created some cards. And these cards, if you can see them, bucket love cards. I hope you can understand now why I call them bucket love cards. We have many clients that actually don't love themselves. Their buckets are so full, their esteem is low. But you know, we have to love ourselves. If we can't love ourselves, how can we love others? How can we expect others to love us? We all need bucket love. Back to that dopamine, isn't it? We all need to know that there's somebody there that loves and cares for us, whether that's with words, whether that's with a smile, whether that's with a hug. These bucket love cards are beautifully created. So 31 cards in a deck. Just show you 1 or 2 here. The freedom card, I love that. It's like the Joker card, choosing what you want. And what have we got here? dance. Every one of these cards has a quote on the back, a bucket love quote, and it has an activity, just a small activity. And the idea behind these cards is that you shuffle them, maybe close your eyes, and with good intention, ask for the card for you. And then you pick your card. I say they're fun for one or all the family. There are many, I know, and maybe that's you, that just needs that little poke. You're not in that place where you can actually activate yourself, motivate, back to that motivation, motivate yourself to do a little activity. And then, of course, if you've got little ones, it's a great way to introduce bucket love cards. The idea of carrying troubles round in a bucket to children. Just like my 6-year-old granddaughter, we went through every one of these cards. And I said to her, if your teacher read this card to you in your classroom, do you think that would be a nice little activity to do? And we went through every one. And she loved them. And we did some over the weekend. So fun for one or all the family. I'm going to shuffle these cards now. Going to shuffle the cards. Going to close my eyes for a moment, and good intention for all of you. Might not suit all of you. It might take some of you out your comfort zone. But what have we got here? Ah, there we are. Nature. So, on the back of the card is a quote. Buckets and nature are connected. And don't they say that nature is one of the best things we can do to get out and just, enjoy, appreciate life? Little activity. Visit a place of nature. Look, listen, touch, and feel the connection to where nature sends love to your bucket. Maybe you've got 5 minutes today to perhaps, if you've got a nice garden, just walk around your garden. Maybe you have the time to go for a nice walk somewhere perhaps you haven't been and appreciate the nature. So there we are. That card's for you today. Thank you for listening. I hope my sharing has been interesting. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
I hope that you've enjoyed the show today as much as we've enjoyed making it for you. If you've got anything out of this episode, please do tell someone else how they can subscribe to the Brand Builders TV channel at youtube.com/brandbuilderstv. Why not join us at our next Brand Builders Thinkubator, a global mastermind that we run every week to take away the loneliness of being in business on your own. For more information and to book your place, visit light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. That's light.brandbuilders.club/Thinkubator. Until next time, be the ripple that you wish to see in the world, and we'll see you soon.